I can't hear you.
You have been accused of treason. What do you make of that?
Oh, look, my focus today is on the state of Georgia. There's an election in this state in 48 hours. 2 Senate seats are on the ballot. It could very easily determine control of the United States Senate. This is a turnout election at this point. We've seen that there's a massive Democratic turnout operation, but I've got faith and confidence in the men and women of Georgia. I think the people of Georgia believe in common sense values. They believe in low taxes, low regulations, and lots of jobs. And I think the people of Georgia want to see a check and a balance on the extreme left wing. If Chuck Schumer becomes the majority leader of the United States Senate, it will mean that the agenda nationally will be driven by the extreme left in the Democratic Party. It will be driven by Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and AOC. Those are not the values of Georgia. Abolishing the police is not the values of Georgia. Socialism doesn't reflect the values of Georgia. And so I think the people of Georgia, the common sense in this state is going to step up and say we don't want to hand this country over to the angry extreme left and to an agenda that is very much out of step with the men and women of this great state.
Senator, how concerned are you that Republicans are going to divide their vote here? They're going to be people that from the constitutional libertarian side who stay home and don't vote.
You know, I actually don't think that is going to be a serious problem. I recognize there have been some people talking about it. To be honest, most of the people talking about folks staying home because they were unhappy about the presidential race, most of them politically are rooting for the Democrats to win. And I think there's a little bit of the military world. You'll deal with psyops. You deal a little bit with trying to mess with the heads. I haven't heard one actual conservative in Georgia or anywhere else who suggested it would be a good thing to hand the United States Senate over to Chuck Schumer and the radical left. And listen, are there a lot of people in Georgia ticked off about what happened in the presidential race? Yes. And there are a lot of people all over the country who are ticked off about it. And I think the answer, if you're unhappy about that, is not stay home, but show up, bring your friends, bring your family, and end up with a big victory Tuesday night. I hope that's what we're going to see.
Senator, the Washington Post and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution are reporting that President Trump was on the phone for an hour yesterday with Secretary Raffensperger, asked him to find 11,000 votes to change the election results in Georgia. What's your response to that?
Look, my response is the voters of Georgia are going to determine who wins this election in Georgia. And my focus, I've been here campaigning on the ground now. This is my 3rd trip to Georgia during this special election. I was here yesterday. I understand, but I'm going to answer what I think matters for the voters of Georgia. What matters for the voters of Georgia is the special election that is happening on Tuesday for the United States Senate, that is control of the Senate. And so I get the media wants to report all sorts of things and get everyone distracted by whatever else is going on. But as far as I'm concerned, I care about not having radicals in charge of the Senate who take away our constitutional rights. I care about protecting religious liberty, protecting free speech, protecting the Second Amendment. And if Chuck Schumer gets a Democratic Senate, he will pack the Supreme Court with radicals that will take away our rights. And so it's going to be the voters in Georgia that make these determinations, and that's why I've been campaigning here over and over and over again, because the entire country is looking to Georgia to defend our rights.
You wrote a letter with 11 of your colleagues laying out allegations of voter fraud. Do you have evidence of that, sir? There have been more than 50 cases that have been dismissed by judges across this country. Where is the evidence that you wrote this letter about?
So I appreciate your question. Let me tell you, I'm going to be in the Capitol. I did a media interview this morning. I'll do lots of media interviews on that topic. That's a topic to worry about in Washington. What matters here in Georgia, and what I'm focused on this trip, is 2 elections that are on the ballot on Tuesday. And so the questions that I'm going to take today concern those 2 elections and the Georgians that will control the direction of the entire country. And so in Washington, you want to ask me that question, I'm happy to answer it, but right now the focus is on Georgia.
Last question.
Evidence to voters in Georgia who are concerned about election integrity, but also want to have free and fair elections. And as mentioned, Secretary Raffensperger has defended the November election, no amount of fraud found. The hour-long call, which NBC News has obtained, he said that there's nothing, Trump told Raffensperger there's nothing wrong with saying that you've recalculated, asking him to overturn the results of a free and fair election. here in Georgia, do you have any legal or ethical concerns about this call and that type of conversation between a president and his state official?
As I told you, my focus on this trip is on the election that's going to happen on Tuesday. And one of the things I just told this crowd here is the threat of voter fraud has been real. It's been persistent. We've seen it in our country, election after election after election. You know, in the state of Texas, just a few weeks before the election, there was a woman indicted for voter fraud in a nursing home for fraudulently filling out absentee ballots on behalf of seniors, many of whom were not capable of casting their own ballots. And she's facing, I believe, over 100 different counts in the indictment. So voter fraud is a real and persistent problem. But what I just told this crowd, and what I think is the best answer for Tuesday, is the best answer is to win by a big enough margin that nobody can steal it. And so this is a turnout election at this point. It depends. In the early vote, we've seen a lot of Democrats show up. That has historically been the case. On Election Day on Tuesday, historically, a lot more Republicans show up. And so it comes down to turnout. I'm hopeful there are a lot of folks in Georgia, conservatives, but also moderates, independents, even Democrats, who say, I don't want to see the national agenda dictated by the extreme left. There are Georgia Democrats who say, gosh, I'm not a socialist. I don't agree with abolishing the police. I don't agree with open borders. I don't agree with packing the U.S. Supreme Court. And I think the people of Georgia want to see some reasonable checks and balances protecting our liberty. And so it all comes down to turnout on Tuesday. All right, thank you guys.
In Georgia. Senator, do you plan to object? Which states do you plan to object to? Is Georgia going to be one of them? Senator? Senator, which states do you plan to object to? Is Georgia going to be one of them?
Gaggle's over.
Can Georgians trust the results of this runoff?
Right there? All right.
Yes.
Senator, I think even your Republican colleagues want to know which states you are going to object to.
Thank you for coming out. Sir.
Which ones will they be?
Thank you.
Yes, sir. We love what you're doing now. We appreciate it.